This is BBC News. I'm Shaun Ley, live at Downing Street as the UK Prime Minister Rishi Sunak prepares to make new appointments to his government as he promises to fix the economic mess the country is in.
I will unite our country, not with words, but with action. I will work day in and day out to deliver for you.
Prime Minister Sunak is now in number 10 after his formal appointment by the King earlier today.
Our country continues to battle through a storm. But I believe in Britain. I believe in the British people. And I know that brighter days lie ahead.
Accompanied by her husband Hugh and her two daughters, Liz Truss left number 10 for the last time. In other news this lunchtime, here are the challenges facing the new Prime Minister, meeting the cost of living crisis as food prices soar, some like pasta, tea and cooking oil up by 65% in a year.
In our area there's a lot of people that rely on pensions, rely on benefits, and if they're not supported, businesses won't continue to thrive because there'll be nobody to use us.
Hello and welcome to our viewers internationally and here in the UK to Downing Street, the heart of British government, where the Prime Minister has just returned to number 10 Downing Street behind me, and he is starting to make the appointments to his cabinet after sacking a third of his cabinet ministers or accepting the resignations from some of them, including the former Welsh Secretary Robert Buckland, who has said that he chose to resign, along apparently with the Business Secretary Jacob Rees-Mogg. A group of others, including the Education Secretary for England Kim Malthouse, were offered jobs in government but outside of the cabinet and chose not to accept them. These moves give the Prime Minister a lot of room to shape the cabinet he wants. One big question we want to find out this afternoon is whether he leaves in place his Chancellor of the Exchequer, Jeremy Hunt, the man who was brought in by Liz Truss to clear up the mess caused by that so-called mini-budget that turned out to be perhaps the biggest and most dramatic budget Britain had seen for decades. Well, the Prime Minister has said that I will unite the country, not with words, but with actions. He is, of course, the third Conservative leader and Prime Minister in the space of 7 weeks. But as he appeared in Downing Street this morning after accepting the invitation from the King to form a new administration, he promised to fix the mistakes made by his immediate predecessor, Liz Truss. Now, as I say, behind the famous front door, that black front door with the nameplate that says First Lord of the Treasury, which of course is ultimately the job that the Prime Minister has, the work begins, initially appointing the big names in the cabinet. Will he move? His Home Secretary, Grant Shapps, was only appointed just last week when Suella Braverman resigned and condemned Liz Truss, the woman who had appointed her to the job barely a month before. Will he move James Cleverly, his Foreign Secretary, who's established himself over the last few months on the international stage? But will he want to give that plum posting to maybe a former colleague like Dominic Raab, who was once the Deputy Prime Minister? What of the existing Deputy Prime Minister and Health Secretary, Therese Coffey? She's not among the names of people who we have told had been asked to leave their jobs, not so far at least. But does that mean she's staying at Health? Does that mean she's staying as Deputy Prime Minister? Does it mean that the Prime Minister would choose to have a Deputy Prime Minister? He's not obliged to have one. All of these changes are things we will expect to find out in the next coming hours. And we will know, because they're going to walk up Downing Street, the people who are either being moved in the cabinet or promoted in the cabinet or given jobs for the first time. We will see them as they come into number 10 behind me, and we'll do our best to get reaction to them. So worth staying with us on BBC News over the next couple of hours at least for all the comings and goings. We'll talk in a moment to our chief political correspondent Nick Eardley for an update. But earlier, Rishi Sunak went to Buckingham Palace, where King Charles formally appointed him Prime Minister a short time after Liz Truss had also been to see the monarch to coin a phrase, surrender the office of Prime Minister after just 49 chaotic days in office. In a moment, Graham Satchell looks at how Rishi Sunak reached this moment in his life and career. But first, an update from our political correspondent, Arnie Wells.
The world's eyes and ears, and Liz Truss's loyal aides, crowded here again.